everyone has problems in the world, not only Europe. I want to make, and I'm not saying that because I'm a European, but I try to be objective and to look at the situations as objectively as possible. So this is the situation today. We have also a very interesting situation in the United States. President Trump, we may like him or not, but he's the great disruptor. He has changed the grammar of politics, not only internal politics, but international politics. He has changed the grammar of political communication, going against the mainstream media, going even above the mainstream media. He has changed the protocol of diplomacy, the conventional diplomacy, sometimes being more tough with the allies and friends than with opponents. So it's a complete new age we are living. Of course, that takes time to adapt. But in Europe, I think, in its very idiosyncratic way, Europe is adapting. Because, of course, it's different in Europe from, let's say, the United States or China. In the European Union, we cannot rule by executive decree. We cannot do, in Brussels, an executive decree. Or we have not a communist party, like in China, where the party dominates the state. So it's different. But in our idiosyncratic way, muddling through, sometimes very slow, it's true, the Europeans are making their way. They are adapting to a relationship that is more based on interests than on values. Until now, for instance, the transatlantic relationship was making appeal to values, democratic values. Apparently, the new president of the United States is no longer focused on values, but more on interests. Okay, we can also play by interests. So this is why we are in a rupture phase, to use the words of my good friend Mark Carney. But in fact, it's not yet clear where we are going from now to the next steps.
As we're watching the geoeconomics and the power that President Trump is trying to hold over the Western Hemisphere, this strategic autonomy, if you will, how do you think Europe should change? Do you think it should build a new independent Europe? What would be your recommendations to the European Commission?
In Europe, people are now working on this concept, European sovereignty. The truth is that from a military point of view, the United States remain very important for the security of Europe. Having said that, for me it's clear that if we want to keep NATO, it will be a more Europeanized NATO. The Europeans are committing more to their own defense. By the way, the Americans are asking for that, and I think they have a point. Europe, if it wants to be protected in terms of their own interests and values, they should not rely only on the Americans. They should build their own defense. And that's what's happening now. What happened in Germany is a fundamental change. People sometimes in the Anglo-American world, the English-speaking world, they have not yet understood what's happening in Europe. So Germany, they changed the constitution to allow unrestricted investment in defense. So we will see a stronger European defense. I have no doubts about it. But I also believe that it's too soon to speak about the end of the transatlantic alliance. Because NATO remains a very important alliance. In fact, it's stronger now than before the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. In fact, the trigger of all this confusion today was the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. Because the idea was to contain NATO, but in fact, NATO is much stronger now. We have now Sweden and Finland members of NATO. In operational terms, NATO is much stronger and closer to Russia than it was before the invasion of Ukraine. But of course, the Europeans want to support Ukraine. They were counting on the Americans, but there are doubts in the United States about what to do in that matter. So that's why there are those tensions also on the two sides of the Atlantic. But I believe at the end of the day that Europe should not be underestimated. Europe, with 27 countries, of course, they have not the kind of decision-making that people have in the United States or in China, because the United States and China are one country each. Europe is about 27 countries just in the European Union, also articulating with the UK and others. But at the end of the day, the direction of travel is clear: much more independence, much more autonomy, and much more commitment to a stronger European defense.